Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing an underrated games video, and possibly the last one. We'll see if you guys like it. I have more in my collection that I could always talk about. The reason why I'm doing this one, though, is it's a continuation from the first time I did one. The first underrated games video was a bit of an arbitrary number, or a strange number for some of you. Top 8 underrated games didn't really make too much sense, but that's just because I wanted to do one exclusive per console that I owned. Now, I wasn't able to find games for the Xbox, for example. There could have been 9 games. There even could have been 10 games if I picked something from the Game Gear. But it wouldn't have been as authentic of a video because I don't feel so strongly about those consoles' games, at least not the ones that I own. And certainly not the exclusives. At least they're not underrated games, right? Like the Xbox had Halo. There's no point talking about Halo, though. So it came to 8. But there were more games on the table, multi-platform games, other favorite games of mine that I wanted to talk about, or maybe games that just fell short, that were like second place to some of those exclusives that I featured. So this is, like I said, that continuation, and now I get a chance to talk about my remaining games, but I'm doing away with 8, somewhat. You can see on the shelf there's some honorable mentions, so to speak, and I've got some more to mention before I get in my list. Anyways, that's enough of a preamble. Let me get into this because I did want to make the video quick. Whoops. So first, from the honorable mentions, so to speak, we have a couple of games that I went back and I played, and unfortunately, I was just a little bit disappointed by. Again, I want to be delivering you guys good recommendations that I fully stand behind. So I tried 007 Nightfire and Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. These are not bad games, but they just don't cut it on my list for this video. However, I think on this Nightfire game, some of you can get a good kick out of it if you don't mind going back in time. It is a little bit dated. You don't mind the controllers, and you're really curious about the different gadgets that James Bond can use. And also there's some cool stuff when you're doing the missions, like performing specific stealth stunts or what have you. Those give you these little 007 medals, and there's a few of them per level, so it's up to you to find them. And how would the real James Bond proceed in those scenarios? That's basically what you get rewarded for. So a cool game, but it didn't hold up. And also, one more part of the preamble, something I should have mentioned, is when I was compiling my list, and I just do this over text first, I'm compiling my list, and I had some like 20 games, and I was sure that all of these games were good and worth talking about. But I had to refresh my memory and I had to capture footage for the video, and that is when I discovered that Nightfire and Toadstool Tour, they're just not as good as I remember. Now with Toadstool Tour, I still love this game. It's still really relaxing, but it's kind of just a golf game. And I thought what set it apart was the Mario-themed fan service, we'll call it, right? Like one of the courses that I didn't get far enough in this video to show you. But there's different pipes that you can shoot your ball into, and they'll come out on other sides. They can go under the pipes. There's flower patches that you can shoot your ball into, and as a little Easter egg, Pikmin will fly out. But on the first 2 courses, so really where the game should try to hook you on its Mario aesthetic, it didn't do that. It didn't feature a lot of that. They were very generic courses. Again, still fun. It's still a great golf game, I think. I haven't played that many. But it just got bumped out of this true top 8, we'll call it. And then to go through some of my other mentions here, you can see on the shelf over there, the Pokemon trading card game is a really good game. It's just not that underrated, I don't think. What else do I have back there? Donkey Kong 64 is a very good game, definitely underrated, but I want to save it for a future video. So yeah, you can play Donkey Kong. Some of the controls aren't amazing anymore, but it's still a great adventure. Pokemon Pinball did not hold up. It was just a very generic and sometimes frustrating pinball game. Still has a soft place in my heart, but that's not good enough to be recommended. The Yoshi's game, Yoshi's Crafted World, is definitely an underrated game, but comes with a caveat that it's probably better as multiplayer. Now, maybe you're going to enjoy playing with someone who has some similar nostalgia for the Yoshi series. Maybe you're a parent and you want to play it with your kid. It's not necessarily stimulating enough to play on your own. That said, though, there's a lot of cool stuff in the game that can keep you entertained. The way that it uses foreground and background, and you can fire your eggs in different directions that way. But another reason why I'm not including it on my list just yet, I haven't beaten the whole game. But again, if you have someone you want to play the game with or someone who might enjoy it, you're both going to have a good time with the game. Now, the final honorary mentions, so to speak. Honorable mentions, anyways. I've mentioned these games before, and that is why they're not in this list, but these could easily push out a lot of the other games. Antichamber. It's a puzzle game that I've played it on PC. I've recommended it on this channel, and I've recommended it to so many different friends. Very trippy, but really immersive and really fun. Slay the Spire. I've played this on PC as well, but it's a multi-platform game. I talked about it actually at length in my What Makes a Game Good Part 2, I believe. So you can catch a minute of me talking about it in that video. But my quick recommendation for it, actually at this point I don't even think it's that underrated. A lot of people are playing this game, which I'm really happy to see. I got into it thinking it might be like Hearthstone. No, it is way more fun than Hearthstone. Hearthstone kind of lost me. Slay the Spire feels like it has way more variety, or at least it's way more fun in its fairness. And what I mean by that is you have at your disposal the ability to create so many different decks. It doesn't matter what kind of luck you're getting on your run. You just craft your deck with slight variations from run to run, and you're going to get so good at the game once you play it, because it is a roguelike, so you do have to practice the game, but practice will make you better at it, thankfully. And as you learn more about the game and the mechanics and your own hero that you're playing as, you will start to excel, and then you can experiment and you can have a ton of fun. Slime Rancher is the last game I want to talk about, which again was mentioned in that aforementioned video, What Makes a Game Good, but it was very brief in that video. I think it was part 1. Slime Rancher is a really relaxing game. I've told someone else before, it kind of reminds me of a PS1 platformer. It has a little bit of collectathon going, but you're not collecting objects, you're collecting these living slimes, and it's up to you to breed them, and then upon breeding them or feeding them, you can collect some resources, and then those resources are actually cashed in and used as currency on a sort of stock market. So it's got a lot of interesting mechanics. The platforming is pretty fun. I'm calling it platforming just because, you're going to be unlocking different jumps and things like that, and you will be achieving different levels in the map, in the overworld. Great game, really relaxing. The sequel just came out, so maybe people are talking about it now. I haven't played the sequel yet, but I can definitely say that Slime Rancher 1 is worth playing. There's one more game to talk about. I'm recording this at the end of the video now. Honorable mention, Interplanetary Enhanced Edition. Interplanetary is a really fun game to play multiplayer. You can still have a good time on your own. What it is this crazy space shooter, I'll call it, where you control a planet, and on the planet you have these different towns. You can configure the rules to have different rule sets, and part of the customization, I actually think you have to do this to get the most enjoyment out of the game, you should go into the config files or whatever the file is, and you should create and tweak your own rule set. Change the starting resources, change the resources you get per turn, change what the different upgrades and abilities do when you play this game. It's an honorable mention because the most fun will be had multiplayer. I know that not everyone is going to enjoy it single player, but when you play multiplayer and it's a bunch of your buddies and you're all on voice chat or whatever, and you're firing these different missiles into orbit, or you get these upgrades for lasers, or you get a super weapon. And in this game, I chose the Meteor Strike, where you just call in meteors from the side of the map, and you're hoping as many of them as possible will crush your enemy. It's a lot of fun. Games can go on quite a bit long, but again, tweak the settings, find different ways to speed up the game, and you're going to have a great time if you can get some buddies together. Usually it's sold pretty cheap, so keep an eye for sales. With all of that out of the way, it kind of feels like I was cheating in this video because I'm talking about so many different games. But now I can finally do the 8 selected games here that I can focus on for a little bit longer. The first game here is New Super Mario Bros. For the 3DS. And I already know there's people who are thinking, oh god, this isn't worth watching. What's this guy thinking liking that game? I've heard a lot of negative things about this game. And to be fair, it didn't necessarily hook me from the outset. My story with this game is that I had just gotten Leo, and while I had Leo, I went back to my handheld consoles, starting with the DS. I was playing New Super Mario Bros., the first one, and I saw in that game that I didn't have a 100% completion rate. And so I had a few days, maybe it was over a week, whatever, where I went back and I was completing the game, finding every coin and all that stuff. And then I immediately jumped to New Super Mario Bros. 2, and it felt different. Something wasn't striking the same as the first game did. Was it a little bit slower? Was it a little bit easier? Where are the coins? Why am I not finding coins on World 1? Well, what is this? Is it actually more difficult in some ways? It's an interesting game. I ended up playing it, just beating the first 5 worlds or whatever it is. I avoided the bonus worlds, and I put the game down for a while. And then I went to 3D Land, and then I came back to New Super Mario Bros. 2, and this time I loved it. I don't know what it was about the game where I needed more time with it, or maybe I just wanted to get the main story out of the way. Not that there is a story, but just kind of my thing, my quirk is that I gotta beat the games that I'm playing. And going back to it, I was able to have a more relaxed experience with it. I wasn't so caught up in, okay, gotta beat every level, gotta get to the end of the game, gotta just finish this and get it off my backlog. I took my time with the game, and I really had a fun time accessing, first of all, the hidden worlds, which are pretty hard to get into. And then I had a lot of fun finding the hidden coins, which, again, they were surprisingly challenging. The nice thing about this game is, and I don't feature it here in the video, but if you die too much, I think it's if you die 5 times in a level, it will spawn you with a super upgrade where you have like unlimited flying and invincibility. And if you want to cheese the levels a little bit, then you could always die 5 times, get that upgrade, and then beat the game that way. Or not just beat the game, but you can get all the coins. Again, some of them are very difficult, so having an upgrade like that really helps. Really though, I do recommend the game. I mean, I don't understand the hate having beaten it 100%. I think it holds up with all of the other Mario platformers. I've liked everything I've played from the classics all the way to the new series. The most recent one I played was the Wii U port, or the Wii port on the Switch. New Super Mario's U, I guess. I like them all, and this one is no worse than the others, honestly. So check it out. Maybe you just didn't have a good time with it right away for whatever reason, but the power-ups are great, the aesthetic is great, it's more of the same. Now, game number 2, this is probably going to be a surprise, Hyrule Warriors. And the reason for recommending this game, first of all, I didn't know what to expect when I got this. This was, I believe, a birthday gift from a couple of friends of mine, same ones who actually got me my Switch, so thank you very much to them. And I knew I would have a good time with it just because I was going to be sinking myself into some kind of a Zelda world. And again, there's all that fanfare and there's all the fan service with all these Zelda characters appearing. First of all, I didn't know just how many Zelda characters were in this roster. This roster is insane. Plus, there's also some unique characters to this game, some originals, and they're fun to play as well. The combat, I had never touched a game like this before. I really liked it. It's very simplistic. It's kind of this hack and slash combat where you're just clearing wave upon wave. You guys call them Musu games or Muso games or whatever. Dynasty Warriors style games. Doesn't matter. There's quite a few of them that exist now. And this one, I've played Age of Calamity afterwards. The first game, Hyrule Warriors, though, does something a little bit different. It is easier to get into. It has better frame rate than its sequel, which is a huge boon. And also, there's ways to kind of do more than just hack and slash. It's a little bit minimal, but you can actually manage other characters in the game, and in that way it kind of feels like a real-time strategy at the same time. So if you're someone who really likes optimizing your gameplay in games, you can definitely get cracked with this one. You can be managing different heroes, cycling between them, and also giving them commands on the map to do things on their own. So there's a lot of management. Playing on the harder difficulties is actually pretty fun if you get the hang of these things. The combos are interesting. There's a weapon system that's fun to explore. You can sell items. You can upgrade items. There's this tech tree where you can make your heroes stronger. And again, being able to play as Link or Zelda or these new heroes, whoever it is. I don't want to spoil all the characters in the game. I don't know if I'm allowed to say stuff like that, even though the game is pretty old. But there's a lot of familiar faces and some really unique characters that make it a very fun experience. Okay, the third game now. Now we can really get into some games that people hopefully haven't heard of before. Demolition Inc. This game is, it's not going to be the longest game you've ever played, but it's a very fun destruction-based puzzle game maybe. It's not that puzzle-ish, honestly. There's not too much thought involved. Basically what happens is you're given a set of tools and you're this alien who's got to just destroy the city. Very cartoony, very light, very relaxing. You're given things like oil slicks, exploding cows. You can control cars on the road with some kind of mind control. And the point is to do as much destruction as possible. Usually in the levels, that's listed to you as an objective, like destroy 5 towers or whatever. And it's just fun. It's such a relaxing and carefree game. You can play for short sessions, maybe just want to do one mission at a time. Maybe you're curious about the achievements because they make you do more difficult things. Like when I mentioned mind controlling a car, there's an achievement, I think, that has you skid that same car for 10 seconds. Or maybe it has it do it on an oil skid without actually hitting a building. Whatever it is, you can see by the gameplay exactly what kind of game this is. I don't need to say too much about it. If you like the look of it, if you like these silly puzzle games, if you like destruction and you kind of like just these open world environments, open world's not the right term for it, but you see what I mean, right? There's a lot that you can do within this level. So if you like that kind of game, definitely check it out. Next, we have Risk of Rain 1, not 2, which I did try out, but it just wasn't the same as 1. Risk of Rain 1, 2D game first of all. Risk of Rain 2 is 3D, and it's just much different gameplay. Risk of Rain 1 is much more simple, at least on the surface. The more time you spend with the game, the more complex it's going to get. I don't know if you can call it a roguelike. Maybe it has some of those elements. Yeah, sure, you can call it that. Basically, the game is this. When you first start off, you can only play this one character, and he's got these 4 abilities here. There are hordes of enemies, waves of enemies coming down on you, and it's up to you to kill them. You're running around this massive map. It really does feel like you're on some kind of alien territory, alien planet, and it's up to you to survive. Use everything at your disposal to survive. You're going to be getting money, gold, from killing these enemies, and you're going to be able to buy certain things on the map, mostly by unlocking different capsules, but also sometimes the bosses are going to drop some good things. And those good things specifically, they're just these power-ups, a bunch of unique artifacts that you can equip. There's things like being able to jump extra, maybe being able to hover. Maybe there's one where every time you take damage, you're going to release all these heat-seeking missiles from you. There are different tiers of these power-ups that you can get. So tier 1 is going to be very basic stuff like, oh, you get a little bit of vampirism. When you do a bit of damage, you get a little bit of health back. It's good, but it's not amazing. And then tier 5, or I don't know how many tiers there are, 2 or 3. But the last tier of power-ups, just really game-breaking stuff, really fun stuff to play with. The more time you spend with the game, the more characters you're going to unlock. The achievements can sometimes be a little bit cryptic, a little bit difficult. Overall, it is a challenging game, and you are going to have to play it for hours upon hours, maybe just to beat it your first time like I did. And there was a period of time, maybe for the first 4 hours, where I was frustrated, and I was taking too long beating the levels. That's the other thing I have to mention about this game. The more you spend time playing the game, the harder it gets. Enemies deal more damage, and I think enemies get harder to kill. Now, you'll get good at the game, you'll realize what items you want to get quickly and then when to move on from a level, or are you going to want to drain a level completely dry of all its resources before you progress. You'll figure all that stuff out. Definitely check the game out. If you like kind of little arcadey things, not the most punishing roguelike ever, again, I don't know if that's the right genre for this particular game, you're going to have a good time with Risk of Rain. Now we have Equilinox, and this is a very relaxing simulation. Actually, how many games have I called relaxing at this point? This is probably like the 4th game I've called relaxing. Clearly, that's the kind of game I like to play, games that don't require the most energy expenditure, right? So Equilinox is the simulation where you're trying to harbor and foster ecosystems. You're trying to start from nothing and then create this thriving landscape full of either woodland animals or swamp animals, marshland animals, different kinds of trees. It's crazy the amount of stuff that's actually in this game, but things are unlocked quite slowly, honestly. But it's a game that you'll get lost in, and it's a game where 20 minutes can pass by in the blink of 2 minutes. You're going to be spending some time babysitting different plants and making sure they grow the right way. Maybe you're going to put modifiers on something because you want a blue plant instead of a green plant. Or maybe you want the leaves to be bigger. You want a bigger size, right? And then you're doing this genetic modification, so to speak, and you're taking the 2 best plants and you're trying to breed them together or whatever. There's a lot of fun stuff micromanaging the plants and the ecosystems in that way. Also the animals as well. The animals, you might get achievements for growing an oversized boar. And so it's up to you to look at your boar livestock and make sure that the big ones are the ones that are having kids. If you have a smaller boar, maybe you don't want it to have kids. Now, I could be mixing up some of the mechanics. I know that you could do that with all the plant life. Maybe you can't necessarily do the same things with the animal life. But still, if you like these kinds of games, where you're just taking care of small little systems. You're growing life and you're watching it unfold, and you like the surprises of what comes next. There's some crazy plants in here and all kinds of different ecosystems that you can create. That's the nice thing. It starts as a blank slate, and you can turn different parts of the maps either into snowy mountains or the bogs that I mentioned before, or there might even be some rainforests in there. Those things are later in the game, and I can't quite remember from when I played it this time around. But again, take a look at the gameplay, take a look at what's on screen, and if you like the look of it, check this game out. Shouldn't be too expensive on sale. Now we have Puzzle Quest Challenge of the Warlords. Now maybe this one should have been bumped out of my list, but I had a really fun time when I was playing it again. I don't think it's the most unknown game. It might not be the most underrated games, but it's good to include it here because I've heard some things about other versions of this game where they just didn't quite hit the same as the 3DS version. Now, maybe you guys have seen in other videos, I talked about Pokemon Puzzle League and other similar puzzle games. I like puzzles, and this one, you can play it slowly because there's no timer when you're making your turns, and the rules themselves are not that complex. But what sets it apart from other games, first of all, is this RPG presentation where you are a character and you're doing different tasks for the kingdom, and as you're going about your business, of course, there's some dark, nefarious plot and some schemers in the background, and you're eventually going to have to deal with them. There's some really cool things also in this game. As you're moving between towns, you could get random encounters. There's quests, so you don't always have to do the next challenge that's assigned to you. You can take some breaks, you can go elsewhere, you can do some easier quests just to kind of get experience. And then here's what's also cool about the game. The experience is used to level up your character, and that can make the things that you do on the board more worthwhile. Maybe the gold coins that you're matching are giving you more money. More money means that you can buy more things in your kind of hub world, and that hub world is useful for different boons and bonuses as you play the game. Maybe you're going to be matching EXP and you want EXP bonuses, or maybe your character is playing with the red tiles a lot, so your red tiles are going to get you more mana, and then that mana lets you unleash more spells on the opponent. And the opponents are also going to be unleashing their spells on you. And if you're not careful, it is easy to lose in this game. The AI is no slouch, at least not with the character that I'm playing here. So Puzzle Quest, maybe it's been talked about quite a bit before, but it's definitely worth playing on the DS. Now we have Divinity Original Sin, and I'm playing the Enhanced Edition. I don't know if that's worth mentioning. On PC. A lot of people know Divinity Original Sin 2. That game just blew up. It did so well. I have not played it yet, but boy, am I looking forward to getting to it. Divinity Original Sin 1 is a really fun game on its own, and it feels very polished. It feels like it's a much more recent game than it actually is. The nice thing about this game, well, there's so many good things about the game. Exploration, first of all. It's really easy to control. The movement and the camera will not be giving you problems. The camera can zoom in and out, and it can rotate really far. You can even slide the camera around to check out different parts of the map, assuming that you've seen those parts of the map yourself, that you've traversed in those areas and you've cleared the fog of war. So that is great. It's really cool checking out the detail in the environments and all the different structures that you can enter, all the different enemies that might appear, and the different treasure chests that are waiting for you. So that stuff is great. Exploration and adventure in this game is great. Combat is also great. The way combat works is you'll run up to a group of enemies, you start a combat, and it goes from a real-time game to a turn-based combat. And the turn-based combat, like a lot of strategies of this era, Western strategies, you have your AP bar, your action bar, so each character is going to have a set amount of skills or resources to use certain skills in battle. The customization, the kind of skills available, it feels crazy in this game, and I can only assume it's even better in the second game. But again, this game is worth playing. Maybe you can find it cheaper, or maybe it's been sitting in your library, but you have to check it out. So in this game, I rolled a battle mage and a knight. Previously, I did something like a witch and some kind of a rogue. And I've had fun with all four characters and the characters that you can recruit in your party. I'm only going to show one on screen over here, but there's tons that you can get. I don't even think I got them all in my first playthrough. And the thing about a game like this, I love to do everything that I possibly can. I love to flush the game out fully and get all the achievements as possible. But in this one, I didn't resort to a guide for that, at least not in most locations. So that I think there were some unlockable characters that I missed, but again, because you can only have a party of 4, it's not like you need all of the characters. Last thing to talk about with this game is in the starting town. I didn't really know what the heck I was playing here because you get wrapped up in trying to solve a murder mystery on top of the other things that you're sent to this town to do. And the murder mystery aspect was really interesting. You're talking to all these different NPCs, you're trying to uncover the story, get different clues, get different people's accounts of what may have happened. The questing in this game was really refreshing. I was really surprised by how into the quests I got. Usually the quests, I just simply read the chat bubble, and it's like, okay, I kind of know what's going on, but I don't really care that much. But yeah, I'll do whatever you're asking me to do. But in this game, it was a lot of fun getting caught up in the storyline And I know I had a video where I didn't really talk too much about story and I wasn't too impressed in stories and games, but this one, it's not necessarily the overarching story that got me, but more just how much care and how much detail went into, again, these small quests. Some of them are side quests, some of them are main quests, but when you're getting lost in this town and you're just getting them all in your logbook and it's up to you to try to do as many as you can, side quest, main quest, doesn't even matter. They're all fun to do. At least I had a lot of fun with them. Now we have the final game, and this is my favorite game on the list. I will certainly be talking about my time with this game in another video, because this game, for now, I'll just focus on the gameplay and I will try to sell you on it. And in the future, I will tell some stories about this game. Gladius is the most underrated game I have ever played and one of the most recommended games I have ever told people about. But still, my friends do not play the game. They don't even download it to play it, let alone trying to find it. It's a multi-platform game. I have it on GameCube. You can play it on so many different consoles. Gladius, you assume the role of a gladiator school. You've got two different storylines to choose from, two different difficulties as well. The first one is this barbarian one with Ursula, and the second is the more Roman-inspired one with Valens. I did Ursula because my first time playing the game, I played her, and I wanted to relive that a little bit. Also, not a bad idea to jump into the easier area, but I remember when I beat the game, I immediately started a file as Valens. Not too much changes, and at some point their storylines will converge, but you're probably going to have more attachment for certain characters depending on which route you start with. And also, when it comes to recruiting different characters, you might have different school compositions because you spent more time in the certain starting area and you got more characters that are themed on that area. For example, with the barbarians, you can see there's a wolf, there's these different bandits, there's these bigger guys who are tougher, more durable. There's a lot of unique characters to unlock here. And one of the most fun things about this game, and you may miss this on your first playthrough, or maybe not, I played the game when I was really young, but there's some unique characters, some hero characters if you want to call them that. And usually they involve doing a few of the different tournaments, a few of the challenges. Sometimes you have to do things at night, sometimes you have to do things during the day. That's right, there's even a day and night cycle. And remember how in Puzzle Quest I talked about how going between towns you can sometimes get randomly ambushed? Well, the same is true in this game. There's just so much to talk about with the gameplay in this game. It would take me 15 minutes to really gush about it as much as would satisfy me. So I'll try to keep it short here. The gladiator style combat and all the characters you can unlock. And there's RPG elements where you're leveling up and they're gaining stats and you can equip your characters. You go to the shop, you buy some different equipment. Sometimes characters might come with better equipment. Sometimes characters might be higher level. And as you're leveling up your characters, of course, you have your skills. Different classes, different skills, and that's where a lot of the fun is. Do you want to have more healers? Do you want to have more supports? Maybe someone with a spear or a bow is really powerful. Maybe you just like the look of certain characters. There's a certain triangle system here going on where medium beats light, light beats heavy, and heavy beats medium. You've seen that kind of stuff before with Fire Emblem, but I feel like this game has more variety in its gameplay, more variety in how you can attack. And the strategy itself, you can see it on screen here, right? Strategy RPG. A lot of the attacks are performed with these different button inputs. Some of them have these meters that go up and down. Some of them you press A. Some of them you have to input like X, Y, B or some other combo that it throws at you, and you got to enter them as quickly as possible without making a mistake. And then the different types of combats, there's different rules imposed. Sometimes it's a timed battle, you're doing as much damage as possible. Sometimes you just have to eliminate the enemy team, and that's it. I cannot say enough good things about this game. When I was playing it again, I got stuck in the game. Just not stuck in a bad way, not stuck as in I couldn't progress anymore. But I had to look at how much time I'd spent playing already, and I was like, whoa, I just need a bit of footage for recording. I cannot be spending hours upon hours replaying this game again. I want to, and I want to talk about the game more, but I will finish talking about it, like I said, in a future video. For now, though, easily, the highest recommendation goes to Gladius. You guys must play this game. Yes, it's an older game. Yes, some parts, maybe moving between text and dialogue, or selecting the matches could be a little slower. Sometimes at the beginning it might feel a little bit repetitive, but when you're unlocking different characters, when you're listing them in your school, you're seeing weird things like scorpions, murmillos, and you're getting the mythological creatures and the different heroes. Oh, there's so much in this game to discover. You're gonna love it. So that's it, guys. We're at the end of the video, finally. That probably took way longer than I'd anticipated. I'm sorry if I said a short video and this ends up being like 30 minutes or something. I still have more games that I want to talk about. I don't know if I'll do an underrated games list again this year. I'll probably save it till next year, play some new games, see what I can incorporate. There's also games I want to recommend that I don't even own, that I just remember playing as a kid at my friend's house or at a cousin's house. There's different games that didn't quite make this list, but you know, they're a little more hidden gem, or maybe there's something really niche about them where somebody can enjoy them. I'll do it another time. There's no Leo today. Leo's actually out playing with the family dog right now, and I'm on my way to go get him. Wanted to record this really quickly. But as always, thanks for watching. And if you thought I was too brief with some of these games, you know, not the games that are in the top 8, and you want me to talk a little bit more about them, I think you're going to find them on YouTube because maybe they're not that underrated. Or let me know in the comments, and I'll try to sell you on them in the comment section. So again, thanks for watching. Tune into the next video. You can probably guess what's next. I just did underrated. Next up, more overrated games. So look forward to that.